Hello, welcome to a very quick and not so quick lesson on beginning bass. And the thing that we have to worry about, as you can see, bass, 4 strings, thick strings, you're holding the band together a lot of times. It's really important to know where your notes lie. So the first thing we want to address is some rhythm things, and that's more on the right or the plucking hand. You can use your thumb this way, which works fine, especially if you're a beginner and the strings are kind of big and hard and tough. But eventually, if the song starts requiring something really fast, you can see how the thumb, quite honestly, it's killing me too, can become kind of difficult. So what I do is I lean with the, turn the camera a little bit, I lean with the thumb here on the pickup, and I use my finger to do a walking motion, and that gives me an opportunity to play the notes a little quicker and faster by alternating fingers. Of course, if you want, you're always welcome to use a pick as well. That way you can do down-up motions and it becomes a little easier. But every song is different. You find the way that's comfortable for you. First thing I want to talk about is the notes on the big 4th string. Basically, you're going to be thrown chords at you, and you're going to have to play that corresponding note to every chord. Usually it's pretty simple, directly involved. If they tell you play a C chord, you got to play a C note, and you got to know where a C note is. So let's go over the notes on that big thick string. The open string is called an E. First fret, and you can see that I'm kind of getting close to the fret, but I'm not pressing on the fret itself. I'm pressing slightly behind. This is an F note. Next note over here is a G on the 3rd fret. 5th fret is an A. 7th fret is a B. 8th fret. Notice up until now almost everything was on the dot. C is not. Is a C note. 10th fret is a D. And 12th fret, where the 2 dots are, is back to E again. So let's say my song goes C, G, F, G. What I have to do is go C, G, F, and back to G. So I'm going to. The question is now, how long do you stay on each chord? That's what the measures are for. A lot of times on the bass we play 8th notes rather than the simple quarter notes. If we were playing quarter notes, we'd be playing 4 notes for every measure. 1, 2, 3, 4 of C. 1, 2, 3, 4 of G. 1, 2, 3, 4 of F. 1, 2, 3, 4 of G again. In the bass, we often play 8th notes, so now we have to double the tempo. We actually got to fit 8 notes for every measure. It's 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, and you can kind of see where that walking pattern on with the fingers makes life a lot easier. Rather than doing this, it's and every finger works half as much. You may also notice that I use different fingers to press the notes, especially if you're a beginner and your fingers are not as strong. These are pretty big strings, they are bridge cables basically. You can use all the help that you can get. I do a lot of times where I do stuff like this, where I press with my middle finger and I use the pointer finger to help to support it. So I'm actually pressing the strings with 2 fingers, and I'm always using the thumb at the back of the neck to squeeze that finger in. I can use it with the ring finger and middle finger. I can use it pinky and ring finger. I can use it a lot of different ways. So again, we're using that basic chord program: 1 measure of C, 1 measure of G, 1 measure of F, 1 measure of G. 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and. Let's take another chord progression. This time the rhythm pattern is going to be slightly different. And what we're going to do, the chord progression is going to be D, 1 measure, so D 2 measures, C 2 measures, G 2 measures, back to D 2 measures. So we got D, C on the 8th fret. Remember, E, F, G, A, B, C, D, C, G, and back to D. This time the pattern is going to be a little different. We're going to do 1 for every measure. So it's 1 measure, 2 measures of D, 1 measure, 2 measures of C, 1 measure, 2 measures of G, back to D. Another example kind of coming out from the same song, we'll do one measure of A, 1 measure of C, 2 measures of D. So A, this is E, F, G, A, and C, and D, 2 measures. Again, A, 5th fret, C, and D. And there you have it. One of the things you may notice is that when I have to move around on one string, sometimes I have to do a very big jump from, for example, from C to G that we had in both cases that I was demonstrating in the last shot. And this is not even a full-size bass. So the jump is pretty big from 8th note 8th note C to the 3rd fret G. And that's where knowing the notes on the 3rd string come in handy, because they save a lot of travel time. The notes on the 3rd string, open string is an A, 2nd fret is a B, 3rd fret is a C, 5th fret is a D again, 7th fret is an E, 8 is F, 10th fret is G, and the 12th fret where the 2 dots are is A again. So now if I'm taking the last 2 chord progressions that I was demonstrating, if we had to go the first one, C, G, F, G, I don't have to go from here to here. I can play the C over here, and G is very close to it. Here it is again. So C, G, F, and G. And there's your chord progression for that. Same thing happens on the other chord progressions, 2 chord progressions that I demonstrated. D is here on the 5th fret. One thing that you may notice is I'm starting to use, it's good to have using different fingers for it. It saves you a lot of, it also can save quite a bit of traveling. If I'm doing the D C, or on the last chord progression, C, G, F, G, and you see my hand didn't have to move across the neck at all. I just gotta lower the right finger on. If you need to do a little, these are not too bad. They're a lot easier to deal with when you're moving from just ring finger on the 3rd fret to pointer finger on the 1st. Very little motion happening. On the other chord progressions, D is over here on the 3rd string, 5th fret. Going to a C on the 3rd string, 3rd fret. To a G, I just have to climb to the thick string. And going to an A is right above here. There's the A, C, and D. And there you have it. Some other chord progressions that, again, using some similar examples that we're going to use in our class. A different section, let's say I'm going C. 2 measures of C, 1 measure of G, 1 measure of F. So I got C, G, F. And I'm actually going to kind of stop on that F. Some more complicated ones. We're going to go E, C, 1 measure of E, 1 measure of C, 1 measure of B, 1 measure of A. So I got the E on the open string, C on the 5th string, 3rd fret, B on the 3rd string, 2nd fret, and A, I can either use the open string or I can use this note on the 4th string, 5th fret. And there you have that section. Here's another little chord run. We're going to go 1 measure of E, 1 measure of G, 1 measure of A, half a measure of C, half a measure of D. So we're going to have, so the switch is going to be a little sooner than usual. E, open string, G, 4th string, 3rd fret, A on the 5th fret, C. Notice that I switched a little sooner. It was E, G, A, C, C, and D. And there you have that section. Here's another little cute, little simple run that gives you a chance to kind of mess around with different fingerings in different places and give different variations to different sections, and you can toy around with it, fool around with them, and see what you like best. The progression is going to be half a measure of B, half a measure of D, half a measure of A, and half a measure of E. I'm going to opt to use this E right here on the 3rd string, 7th fret, because it gives me a sort of a square X-shaped pattern to work off. B on the 7th fret, D on the 3rd string, 5th fret, A right above it, 5th fret, E. And you can kind of see that sort of 1, 2, 3, 4 sort of box that I'm working inside. And every now and then you can resolve it to the low E just to give it a different flavor. You can do that. You can do B here. Here, you got a lot of various different options to work from. You may notice that I didn't talk about the frets in between. I didn't mention the second fret on the fourth string. I didn't mention the first fret on the third string, and those are used in the context when I have sharps and flats for various theory reasons that I'm not going to get into. They're not named in specific letters, but we use them to manipulate certain things within, depending on the key that we're at. When I say a sharp, I basically means take a note and add one fret to it. For example, if I want an F sharp, I take an F note here on the first fret, and I say add one fret, so on the same string, so F sharp becomes this note. If I want a C sharp, I take my C note here, for example, and add one fret to it, so this third fret plus one ends up being the fourth fret, and this is my C sharp. So if my progression, let's say, requires 2 measures of E, 2 measures of A, 2 measures of G sharp, 1 measure of A, 1 measure of B. And I believe it's scrolling down here on the screen. So I have E, fourth string open, and we're going to do this in eighth notes. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and second measure 2, 3 and 4 and A, I can use the open string, the third string open, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and G sharp. This is my G, third fret, so I'm going to add one fret and I get a G sharp. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 measure of A, 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 measure of B. It's going to look like this. There you have that. Sometimes those in-between notes we use flats to determine them. Flat does the exact opposite thing from a sharp. It tells you to move the fret, to move the note one fret backwards, the opposite direction. For example, if I have a and I want an A flat, there's my A on the 5th fret. I move it backwards one fret to the 4th fret and I get an A flat. Notice this note, just like it can be a G sharp or an A flat, it depends on the song and depends on the key and the writing and on a million things that you don't want to spend hours of university time right now waiting for me to explain. Just accept it. So there's my A flat. If I want a B flat, I can take the B here on the 7th fret and move it back one fret, and there's my B flat. I can do the same thing on the 3rd fret, on the 3rd string as well. There's my B note on the 3rd string, 2nd fret. I move it one fret back, I get a B flat. So if, let's say, our chord progression is C, B flat, G, B flat, 2 measures each, I'm going to do a C, 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and to a B flat here on the 3rd string, first fret, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2, to a G here on the 4th string 3rd fret, to back to a B flat, or the other option is use the B flat here on the 4th string 6th fret. It's totally up to you, whichever one you like better. And then the progression will look C, B flat, back to G, back to B flat, and so on. Basically explore all the options you have, see what works for you, and have fun with it. So that's the quick rundown on the bass. Enjoy.